Hello, my name is Monica. I am a beauty, skincare, YouTube enthusiast and amateur. I consume a lot of content on this space, so I thought I would try my hand at making some. Today's video is very new for me. It's the first time I've ever tried something like this, but I love to watch these videos, so I thought I would try making one and see how it goes. If you like it, please let me know. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Please subscribe if you're interested in seeing more from me. And let's just jump into it. Let's get into some of the new releases and getting my thoughts on them, and maybe doing some anti-hauling, maybe some wish listing, and maybe just shopping my stash to see if I can think of anything that I already have to just continue being a conscious consumer, which is what my goal is for this year. So if all that sounds good to you, let's jump into it. Okie doke. So I have pulled up Trend Mood Instagram. I'll leave that linked below. This is where I'm going to be getting all the info on the new releases and all the pictures that I'll be putting on the screen. And I'm just gonna start scrolling from the newest stuff down to maybe like a week or two ago. The first thing that catches my eye is this Blockbuster eyeshadow palette, which looks very nostalgic and fun. I can't tell. Okay, excuse me, that's my dog. He's fine, he's just dramatic. It's a Hot Topic release. I'm not one to shop at Hot Topic for makeup especially, and it looks like a pretty standard combo of some like oranges, white and black, and then some fun pops of color. This looks like something that I could scrounge in my collection to find all those neutral tones that I have probably 10 times over, and then the pops of color that I have in my Vise Art editorial brights, which I'll flash a picture of that on the screen. I have found that that palette and purchasing that palette for me has been a good way to quench my desire for some of those pops of colors that come out in really fun palettes, especially because it also has a white, and I have blacks in other places in my collection to take a really bright color and turn it pastel or to deepen it up. So that one's not really gonna be on a wish list for me, that Blockbuster palette. Okay, so the next interesting thing that I see is from the brand Tower 28, and it is an extension with 3 new shades to their Beach Please tinted balm, excuse me. And I actually do have one. I'll flash a picture of the one that I have. I have the Magic Hour shade, and I really enjoy it. I think that the formula is great. It's blendable, creamy, it looks like skin. I enjoy the color on me. It's kind of like a warm nudie color on my skin tone, more peachy leaning. But the other colors that they have, including this shade extension, are colors that I'm just not that interested in as far as it goes, as far as cream blushes go. I find that with cream blushes, the colors that I get the most use out of are the ones that are my go-to everyday type of nudie shade, and those other kind of bright poppy type colors are something that I prefer to have in a formula just one time over in my collection, and not in multiple different formulas, or to have similar duplicates. And so of these colors, like a terracotta-y color, a cranberry color, a warm orangey color, I have some of those already in my vast blush collection, and I don't think that I need to add this particular formula to that. That said, if all that description that I just rattled off to you about how these blushes perform sounds good to you, and you are looking to add those, I would say this would be a good one to add onto the wish list. For me personally, however, they're gonna be a skip. Okay, right underneath that is this Spring 2021 collection from Artist Couture, and it is the Ethereal Bloom palette. I do have an Artist Couture palette. I have the Supreme Nudes, I think is what it's called, and I think the formula is great. It performs really well, blendable, impactful shimmers. There's also a Diamond Lights finisher, which I've heard incredible things about in this particular launch. That just looks glittery and gorgeous. I think that this is a potentially predictable, but honestly exciting to me color story. The packaging is pretty. I think that the launch makes sense, and I think that it's a win. I most likely won't be adding it to my collection because I do have plenty of eyeshadow palettes. You know what this reminds me of? And I'll flash a picture on the screen. It reminds me of the Mercury Retrograde palette, which I don't personally have, but maybe if you have that, it could be a pass for you. Maybe there would be too many duplicates. For me, I would just say between my, again, Editorial Brights and some of my other more spring tone palettes, that have peachy or pinky punchy colors in it, in them, I probably can pass on this. But as a standalone palette, I think that the color story is really pretty and exciting, and I would say that this is a good looking launch in my opinion. It's just not going to go on my wish list based on what I already have in my collection. And again, my collection in this year is all about me trying to be a very conscious consumer and not adding duplicates and really just getting the most out of stuff that I already have. But that's not to say that this isn't a gorgeous launch, and it really caught my eye when I was scrolling. Okay, the next thing I see here that is something to note, it's not the newest launch, but apparently it is going to be available at Ulta, which is new. Colourpop as a brand is already in Ulta, but this Colourpop collection with Animal Crossing is going to be available in stores, which I think is really cool. I think that that's fun that it's going to be accessible to people who want to see it in stores and maybe pick up one or two things without having to like meet the minimum shipping or otherwise pay shipping. I am an Animal Crossing fan, and I think it would be really fun to pick up a piece of the collection, but I'm really trying to stay conscious. Excuse me, the heater just popped on, and it's going to stay on because it's really cold in here, and I'm so sorry if that's distracting. But anyway, I was saying that I'm really trying to stay a conscious consumer and not make choices just because it's a collaboration with either a person who I like or an intellectual property that I like. I'm trying to look at items for what they are and ask myself, does that add value to my collection? And personally, I don't think that any of these things really do. The purple really calls towards me because I love like a lavender eye, but I have experimented with lavender in my own collection that I do have. I have one in the Vise Art Cool Mattes that I have, which I'll pop up. So I'm gonna try to not go there. A mint color is another thing that I don't really have in my collection, although I could probably achieve a mint by mixing colors. So maybe I'll try that coming up and see how successful that is. So some of these look like they're calling me, those pastel quads. But if I really try to get the most out of my collection and do some mixing, I probably could achieve some similar looks. So I'll definitely be trying that first. But I think it's cool that they're in Ulta and that they're accessible in that way. Okay, this next release that I would say would go on an anti-haul list for me, is something that I probably wouldn't ever be interested in, is the Pat McGrath Love and Lust Gloss Duo. First of all, they're probably small, and I don't love mini lip items. I just find that I reach for them less often than I do full-size lip items, so that's kind of strike one. And second of all, they're an odd shape to store, which also isn't my favorite. I'm sure that you can only really lay them on their side or lay them flat. Not to mention that in my particular organizers, I probably have no space or no way of fitting in there. So just the fact that they're kind of probably small, that they're going to be a hassle to store, on top of the fact that they're colors that I most likely already have, is all a bunch of reasons for me not to buy them and not be interested in them. I think that the Pat McGrath formula is gorgeous. I do have some minis of the Pat McGrath formula. Again, I don't reach for them all the time because they tend to be just something that I reach for less often. My brain doesn't think about them as much as it does on my full-size collection, weirdly. But the formula is probably great. I think the colors, which look like they might be colors that are already in her line, are beautiful. Pinky nude colors, light nude maybe, but they look gorgeous swatched here. It's just that for all those reasons I listed before, they wouldn't be on my radar as something that I'd be interested in purchasing. Okay, here is a release from Too Faced that's it's probably not going to be I don't know how popular it's going to be. First of all, it's the teddy bear, so it's kind of like cutesy, but mixing in like the bear, like to be kind of like ostentatious, or like, I don't know, out there and kind of sexual, sexy, I don't know. So it's teddy bear collection, and there is a eyeshadow palette, a face powder is what it's called on this Trend Mood description, and a lip injection gloss. The lip injection gloss, first of all, is something that I've never been super interested in, just because I've heard about how it is so stingy, and I just prefer, even though I love the look of a plump lip, I think that I'd rather be comfortable. So those have never ended up on my radar. The face powder itself looks kind of shiny. I don't know if that means it's a highlighter. Highlighters are something that I've kind of been shying away from because I just find that I get a lot of dew from the other steps in my routine. I talked about that recently, where I just noticed that when it comes time to apply highlighter, I just feel like I'm already kind of dewy enough, and I often don't feel like I need it. I'm interested to hear if you're using highlight with the same frequency that you have in the past. You can sound off below if you have or haven't. And then the eyeshadow palette. That's probably supposed to be like the star of the collection, and to me it's just pretty boring. It looks like a collection of shades that we have seen in a bunch of different neutral palettes and from Too Faced themselves. It kind of looks like a combination of chocolate bar mixed with sweet peach. I don't know, if you have those two palettes, and you probably have a lot of these shades. It looks a little bit like the, what is it? Tarte in Bloom. It looks a lot to me. The first thing I thought of when I saw it was it looks like the Sigma Corderosa, and I have a feeling that the Sigma shadows are maybe performing better than Too Faced. I know Too Faced can be a hit or miss formula-wise, where what I've heard from Sigma and their palettes, and I have one of their palettes, the formula is pretty consistent and performs well. So yeah, that one's definitely on the anti-haul list. It's not exciting to me, and the premise is just kind of like, okay, I guess it just seems like maybe you're running out of ideas. I don't know, that's too harsh. So here's a release I don't know if many people will talk about, and it is the Vise Art Paris Love Letter Étendue palette by Vise Art, and I think it's pretty. I definitely think that it's a lovely combination of kind of neutrally browns, warm peaches, a pop of fresh green, some lilac colors that I just mentioned I'm a sucker for. I think that it's definitely pretty. Maybe it's not a super hot take, and as you've already heard, I have, I think, a sizable Vise Art collection, and I love their shadows. I think that the performance of them is great. I've even gifted some to my sister in the past because I think that they're so reliable, and their color theory palettes I think are a great way for people who like to do simple everyday makeup to just get their go-to colors in a little palette. That's what I've gifted in the past. But these they're not really mini palettes, but I guess I would say that they are mini palettes. They are 12 shades, but the pans are a little bit smaller, and for some reason that just turns me off from them, even though they have a lot of these little I think it's the Etendu line. I think that there's multiple in that line, but I just noticed that if they come in that format, the 12 pan that happen to be a little bit smaller pans, I don't even consider them because I don't know. I don't like reaching for shadows that are a little bit smaller in my collection, and I wonder if I'm alone in that. I wonder if that's a silly reason for something not to be on my radar, but that's basically what it comes down to. Now, it also comes down to the fact that in the Sweet Peach palette, which I do have, I probably have plenty of this kind of shadow. I love that palette. I know it's an old one, but I love some of those more unique peachy leaning shades in there, as well as the straight up obvious peaches, and it has a pop of green, I think. So this color story really is intriguing, and if it came in a full size Vise Art palette, I know it would be more expensive, and maybe that's why they go with some of these small ones. Maybe they're better sellers, and that's great. I'm all for accessibility, but just for me personally, I just tend not to be intrigued by them since I know that they're smaller, and that just turns me off a little bit for whatever reason. Okay, and the last one that I want to discuss is this eyeshadow palette that has been announced and might already be, yes, and it is already available, and that is the Naked Wild West palette by Urban Decay. Now, when I saw this, I for sure thought that people were going to be crapping all over it. I thought that it was going to get roasted, but the more I see about it, the more I am surprised that people are like, oh, I think it's kind of fun. Maybe it's a random concept, but I think the colors are cool and I like the packaging and everything. Urban Decay has increasingly upped their packaging game. I don't think anybody can deny that, and I give them props for that. I love the fact that they put in lots of thought to their packaging, and that looking at their packaging is aesthetically pleasing and can be a nice thing to add to your collection. But the inside for me just still is kind of blah. My first impression was that it's nothing really new to people's collections. Like, we have lots of warm palettes with pops of blue. That's like been a trend in the past couple of years, and so if you've been a makeup lover for the past couple of years, and you probably have something already like this, maybe the Kathleen Lights and Dream Street Colourpop palette, which was the Dream Street palette. It looks like some maybe Naked Honey shades, Naked Heat shades, along with if you have any pops of blue anywhere else in your collection. Maybe you don't. Maybe this is something that's completely new to you and exciting to you, in which case the formula is probably pretty reliable compared to other Naked palette formulations, which are, in general, I would say reliable. They tend to blend okay. The shimmers tend to not have the biggest punch, but that can be remedied with spraying your brush or applying with a finger. And I've seen some reviews, and a lot of people are getting this in PR. I noticed that Urban Decay sends a lot of PR to smaller creators, which I think is awesome, and I tend to trust smaller creators. I think that they're generally pretty honest and really value their platform and give honest reviews. So nothing to anybody who got this in PR, congratulations. If I got it in PR, I just would probably end up trying it out maybe for a review like some of these other influencers have been doing, and then maybe gifting it away, because I don't think it would be something that I reach for a whole lot. Those like sandy yellow shades at the beginning, I can't tell if they're like peachy or sandy yellow. Maybe seeing it in person would change my mind, but if there were like a sandy yellow shade, maybe I would think it would be kind of fun to play around with and keep in my collection. But if they're just kind of like a basic warmer brown, like I've heard a lot of people describing them as, then this palette would probably be a gift away for me if I had received it for free, and since I haven't received it for free, it is a skip for me. Okie doke, so that is all the palettes and new releases that I'm going to be discussing in today's video, and whether or not they catch my eye, and why or why not they do or don't catch my eye. I hope this was kind of fun and entertaining to catch my insight on some of these new releases. The fact that I made a couple of suggestions for shopping your stash or some other alternatives, maybe that adds a little bit of a unique twist on it. I hope that you enjoyed our time together, and I really appreciate you, if you've made it this far, spending your time with me. And again, if you feel so inclined, please do subscribe, hit the like, and I hope to see you in my next video soon.